So today was the day. The banned and restricted announcement did come down from on high, and it was different than a lot of us thought. And today I want to talk about not only what bans happened or didn't happen, and then also discuss it from a more holistic perspective, because I know for myself, this is not what I expected, and I kind of felt bad reading it. However, upon more consideration and kind of a deeper reflection, I don't know, I have some thoughts, and so I want to share them today. So, what happened? So, this banned and restricted announcement today, August 7th, 2023, marks the first annual banned and restricted announcement. Wizards of the Coast has a plan in place now where once per year, for the health of every format that they have jurisdiction over, which is pretty much everything aside from fan-made formats and Commander, they see the ban list and they control it. So we're talking Legacy, Vintage, Standard, Modern, Pioneer, pretty much the works. Even Pauper and whatnot, they control it. So here we are, and we're looking at specifically, there was a lot of discussion around Standard and Pioneer. There were definitely some thoughts and some discussion about Modern. Although the cards that are seeing problematic play rates are, you know, cards from the Lord of the Rings set, which just came out. So the chance of those seeing a ban were pretty low at this point. Who knows what'll happen in the future? However, with the new ban and restricted policy, if one of these cards, like the One Ring or Orcish Bowmasters, sees a problematic play rate and problematic win rates, based on their own strategy, they're really only equipped to deal with it on an annual basis. So it's not until August or September of next year that they would be willing to pull the trigger and get rid of one of these, unless they change their tune about their ban and restricted schedule. So we'll see what happens on that front. But for the moment, no cards were banned. So today marks the big first time ban announcement, and there were no bans. In fact, there were 2 unbans. And so in Modern, we have Preordain unbanned. If you're not familiar with Preordain, it is a sorcery for 1 that says scry 2, draw a card. This is an incredibly powerful cantrip. It's kind of one of the like the best in class 1 mana spells. You know, you just see a ton of cards. Like, you see 2 cards. If neither of them are the cards you want, you can put them on the bottom and you find a third. You know, 3 cards for 1 mana is pretty great. So combo decks, as well as decks that are digging for specific pieces like Storm or, you know, Is It Murktide, all of a sudden have a new tool that can help them be more consistent. And that's a big deal, and that's why Preordain got banned. It was part of the glue that held some of these combo decks or spell-based decks together. And so they wanted to kind of knock those down a peg, so the Preordain got banned some time ago. But now it's back. At the moment, power creep has bumped up to a point where Modern can honestly probably handle it. I'm not afraid to see Preordain in Modern. Granted, I personally don't play Modern, so I guess I don't have a horse in that race. But from what I've seen, from looking at deck lists, from looking at the power level of current cards, I'll be surprised if Preordain is a problem. Anyway, so next up, in Legacy, we have Mind's Desire getting unbanned. Now, this is a weird one. So Mind's Desire is a 6-drop sorcery that says shuffle your library, then exile the top card of your library. Until end of turn, you may play that card without paying its mana cost, and it has Storm. So if you cast a lot of spells, you know, and things like Preordain can help you do that, just putting that out there. So if you cast a lot of spells, and we're in, you know, in some of these older formats, you have even free spells like that you can cast to help get that count up. And then if you can rip Mind's Desire in one way or another, like using rituals and whatnot to get the mana necessary, all of a sudden, you know, or if you have a way to free cast it, which, let's be honest, there are plenty of those, all of a sudden you end up with this ability where you're free casting a lot of random cards out of your deck. That can be incredibly powerful if you've got big hits. Now, this card is difficult to build around, is what I found, but the reality is, if you can get that number high enough, if you can get a decent Storm count, you're bound to hit something that's going to help you win the game. Like, almost every time. It's kind of nuts. So it is a very, very powerful card, and you can hit other copies of Mind's Desire with Mind's Desire, and those trigger and Storm as well. So naturally, it gets out of hand. The problem is resolving this spell. As you resolve each copy, you have to reshuffle your library. And so resolving a Mind's Desire with a Storm count of even as low as 2 or 3 can become a real headache and can take a long time because you have to deal with each one individually. And so there's a ton of shuffling and a ton of time spent. So if Mind's Desire becomes a part of a competitive deck, which it used to be, hence it being on the ban list, it could be a logistic frustration for tournament organizers in paper. So we'll see if that plays out. I don't know. The truth is, Mind's Desire has been on the ban list for 20 years, and it's finally coming off. Given the power creep, I think that's probably fair. Honestly, I'm glad to see this approach of unbanning cards that have been banned at a time when Magic looked different. Let's take some of the older cards that were pushed a little too hard. Now that we've gotten to a point where everything is pushed harder, everything is more powerful, let's take some of these old bombs that were too good for their time and inject them into the current meta and see what happens. I kind of like that approach because that might shake things up in a meaningful way, and you're breathing new life into old cards rather than taking away cards that people have invested in. So from a collector perspective, that makes a lot of sense. From a gameplay perspective, it makes a lot of sense. No decks got invalidated today. That's nice, right? Like, that's a good thing. So, okay, cool. So the real question then comes in for casual players such as myself who play a lot of Standard or Explorer and kind of, as a result, I kind of have a vested interest in Pioneer. What does this mean? Like, why did we not see any bans in those formats? And how come it feels bad? Because let's be honest, it does. Like, I was sad to not see Karn the Great Creator on this list. I was sad to not see the One Ring on this list. I didn't expect it, but I'm still bummed to not see it, right? Why? The reality is, we're in August. We haven't had a standard product release in months. We haven't had anything that injects new life and vibrance into these formats in some time. I mean, on Arena, we have the Explorer Anthologies, and that's been nice. The reality is, though, we've all been playing the same game for a long time, and Magic is dynamic. It is constantly changing, and that's one of the things that we love about it. We're at a point right now where I believe, at the end of the day, Cabin Fever has just sent in. Like, that's really where we're at. I just want to change. And this year, it is exacerbated by the fact that rotation is not happening. So normally, in this kind of a situation, like, okay, there were no standard bans, so standard's the same as it's been. Okay, fine. In a month, it's going to rotate, and then it's going to be a whole new world again. Well, this year, that isn't the case. Standard isn't going to be rotating. Alchemy is, so for people playing that format, rock on, go nuts. But for us standard players, we lose that. We don't have that. So the hope is that Wilds of Eldraine is going to inject quite a bit of new cards into the meta that can shake things up in meaningful ways. Here's hoping, but I don't know, I'm not super hopeful. At the end of the day, I feel like the tri-lands are still super powerful, and they're still going to drive a lot of 5-color nonsense decks. Breach the Multiverse is still a house. That's not going to change. Sheoldred is still the best 4-drop threat in the format, and that's not going to change either. So we keep having to pack answers for all these very powerful creatures, but the removal suites are all insane. And we're just here with this very high-powered standard that we have, and nothing's changed. But now, the other side of that is, well, looking at it, well, what's my ban wish list? The reality is, I don't have any particular card where I can make a solid case that it is too strong and needs to be banned. I mean, Atraxa is incredibly strong. She absolutely is. And if that saw a ban, I wouldn't be mad. But at the same time, I can't in good conscience say that she needs to be banned. Same is true with Sheoldred. Like, Sheoldred is a very, very powerful card. I'm sick of seeing it. I'm ready for it to change. But that doesn't mean that it is oppressive and ban-worthy. There is a difference there. Personally, I would love to see Sheoldred, Atraxa, Go for the Throat, Leyline Binding. I'd love to see all those cards. I would like to see all the Capenna Triomes. I want to see pretty much all, like, the Wandering Emperor and all of Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. But you know where that feeling is coming from? What that actually is? It's not me wanting those specific cards all gone, and it's not demanding that they be removed in this forum. That's me wishing that rotation would happen. And that's where that feeling is coming from. So if you're not happy with today's ban and restricted announcement, ask yourself, where is that feeling coming from? Is it truly that the formats are in an unhealthy position? Or is it just that they've gone stale from a couple of months of pretty samey gameplay? I have a feeling it's probably a lot the latter, if people are honest with themselves. So that said, if you think I'm full of crap and you want to let me know in the comments below, please do. Engagement really helps. And while you're down there, if you wouldn't mind liking and subscribing, that would be super cool of you. So thanks so much for checking out this video. I'll catch you on the next one.